checking Facebook to see whether I'm on, because if anybody wants to ask me any questions while I'm on, then you can go onto my Jackie Jones Psychotherapy and Coaching Facebook page and I'll see them. I'm posting this in lots of different places, but I might have to go back afterwards and check up if there's any comments, because I'm streaming in about 4 or 5 different places, so I don't always see the comments, which isn't very good, but at least it's putting me out there in front of people in case they want to hear what I've got to say, and I'm hoping that they do. So tonight I'm going to be talking about unhelpful thinking styles. I talk an awful lot about thought, and it's one of the things that I'm always waffling on about. So I thought on all my social media, you might have already seen it, and if not, where have you been? You've been hiding under a rock. That I think there's about 10 different unhelpful thinking styles. And first of all, I just did a meme, and then I thought, if you're anything like me, memes are no good. I look at the pictures if they're pretty and read it, but I don't really do anything with it. So this past week I've been posting every day one short video explaining around the unhelpful thinking styles, and there's another 5 that I'm going to put up next week. So there'll be 10 short 5-minute videos all around the different types of unhelpful thinking. Because for me, it's one of the first things that I talk a lot with about clients. Our internal dialogue, that internal chitter chatter that's always running in the background with us, that's usually very unhelpful. It's very rare, I think, that we have positive self-talk to ourselves. And, you know, that's one of the things with mental health and anxiety and overthinking and stress and all those sort of things that we tend to believe. One of the things that I say a lot around our thoughts is that they're not real. Until we give them energy and bring them to life, it's just a thought. And what am I having for dinner is made up of the same stuff as, oh my God, I'm feeling anxious, until we focus our attention on one of them. Because what we focus our attention on, we're going to get more of, which it makes sense when our state of mind is in a good place, and, you know, when we're in the here and now and our adult and all these psychological terms and everything, it makes sense that, you know, what we focus on, we get more of. But when we're in it, when we're in the overthinking loop, when we're in that anxiety, when we're in stress, when our state of mind is not at its best, it's easy to get hoodwinked with our brain. Our brain is really clever at doing what it does. But one of the things that I think we all need to realise is that our brain is doing what it does for our survival. All the what ifs, all the predicting the future and trying to work everything out, all those sort of things it does for our benefit. I know in times in the past when I've been anxious, I suffer from postnatal depression with all 3 of my kids, and the last one, you know, I refer to it as being off the Richter scale. I probably for about 2 years, I was not myself. I was really good and I faked it an awful lot because I was fostering at the time. And I had, again, because I was suffering from postnatal depression and because my state of mind was quite low, I had this thought in my head that if I told anybody that I was struggling with anxiety and really weird thinking that was going on for me at that time, that they would take the looked after children away from us. And that was one of my big fears, because they'd been with us for so long. And, you know, me being pregnant and having a young baby, I didn't want that to interfere with them. I wanted to say then, I have a bit of a pattern of doing this, that I always look around the people around me and how is my behaviour or what I'm doing going to impact on them. But that was one of my main concerns. So I kept it all hidden at that time. But when I was in, you know, that place for probably about 2.5 years, I believed an awful lot of my thoughts that I had. They seemed real to me. One of the overriding thoughts that I had, which I'm smiling as I'm saying it because it's absolutely a ridiculous thought, but at the time, it consumed an awful lot of my headspace. My son was born in the November, and on the Boxing Day of that year was when that big tsunami hit in 2004, and I was convinced that we were going to be hit by a tsunami, and I kind of planned an escape route and what I would do and all those sorts of things, because I had, you know, problems towards the end of that birth. I'm not going to harp on about it, but I couldn't breastfeed him, so he had to be bottle fed. And, you know, that was an overriding thought of mine. How can I feed him when this tsunami comes? And looking at it now, it was the most ridiculous thoughts. I live 40 minutes away from the beach. There's not a cat in hell's chance that a tsunami was going to get me in Coppell, but it all seemed really real at that time. So that's one of the things that our brain does. It can hoodwink us into, you know, working out scenarios and looking for worst case scenarios and planning and looking at all these sort of things that we need to do to plan and prepare and everything else. And it does feel like sometimes our brain is out to get us, but the reality is it's all about survival. It's all about protecting us, and that's what our brain is doing to the best of its ability. When we have certain thoughts, it's like we kind of push the alarm button to raise the alarm, and it goes into hyper overdrive to protect us. So really, we need to be kind and compassionate to our brain. I was going to say our little brain, because I think sometimes mine is very little. Our little brain and what it's trying to do. The best thing that we can do is to trust that when we need it to spring into action, it will do it. Whether we push that red button or not, if there's an emergency, we will be okay in that emergency. We will know what to do and when to do it. So that's the first thing that I wanted to say to people, is just, you know, be kind to yourself. If you are having some of these unhelpful, you know, thinking and thoughts going on, the worst thing that you can do is to be judgmental and to beat yourself up over it. It's about learning to step back and observe the thinking and start to learn to reality check it. You know, I talk a lot about taking it to court, but just reality check the thoughts that you're having. And, you know, when our state of mind comes up a bit and we are in a better place, we'll be able to assess the situation a lot better. When we're not 100%, if we're ill, if we're tired, you know, if we've gone through some sort of life event and everything, our thinking often gets a bit skewed, and that's okay. It's not going to stay that way. It never stays that way. It's like, you know, it's transient, it's moving all the time, exactly the same as what our thoughts are. I can guarantee that whatever I was thinking half an hour ago is probably not what I'm thinking now. Definitely not while I'm sat in front of you, unless I make a conscious effort to pick it back up again, which is something what we do. When we get into that habit of having the same kind of thinking over and over again, we actually consciously pick that thought back up. And it's being aware around that sort of stuff that's going to be the best thing to help us when, you know, when things like this are going on for us, when we are feeling stressed and overwhelmed. So I'm just going to touch on a few of the thinking styles that I have been talking about last week and that I'm probably going to continue to talk about next week. And I'm not going to talk that much on them, but I'm just going to give you something to muse over, a bit of structure where you can think, oh, yes, that's one that I do. So the first one is all or nothing thinking. Sometimes it's called black and white thinking. It's always bad, or, you know, it's always good. There's no grey area in the middle of that. I always do it, or I never do it. It's about, like I said, just checking in with yourself and seeing, is that true? If you say, for example, I know I talk about anxiety a lot because I think that's something that an awful lot of people are going for. If I say something about, I always get stressed when I go to the doctors, I always hate it when I go to the doctors, just reality check that and think, is that actually true? Is every time you go to the doctors a bad experience for you, or do you only remember the bad times? Because that's another trick our brain does. It only remembers the bad times so it can connect the dots and keep us safe. So if going to the doctors and having a really good experience there, I'm not saying we go there for a jolly hoyt on a Friday afternoon or anything, but say you're really worried about something and the doctor puts your mind at rest, there's absolutely nothing wrong, and you come out and everything's fine. You probably won't remember that because it doesn't reinforce your story about going to the doctors. So we tend to forget that and focus on the negative things, which is the same with all our thinking. Our brain connects up the dots so it can keep us safe. So it's not going to remember the things when it doesn't pan out badly, because that's not going to help us survive. All the good stuff. Our brains would be wonderful if they sprung into action when we needed them, and the rest of the time it was like skipping through the forest or the meadows with bluebells and daffodils, happy as Larry. But that's not what it does. It always errs on the side of caution in order to protect us and to enable us to survive in the situations that we come across. And it goes back to primeval times. That's why we're still existing as human beings. And, you know, we're not like the dinosaurs and things like that. The other one is a mental filter, only paying attention to certain types of evidence, filtering out the positives and only noticing the negative things, which again is similar to the one ahead. And I've spoken about why that is. But it's kind of like, I can remember years and years ago when I was doing my teacher training. I'm qualified as an adult teacher trainer. It's something that I did 30 years ago or something. But we learned how to give a feedback sandwich. There was always a positive, and then we'd throw in a bit of, you know, not necessarily a negative feedback, but a bit of feedback in there. And then we'd end up with another positive again, so that it was, you know, deemed to be more acceptable to the person receiving it. I would hazard a guess that 99.9% of those people only focused on the negative. They let the positive beginning bit and the ending that was positive go and just focused on the, oh my God, they think I'm rubbish at my job, or my work isn't good enough, it's not up to standard, or whatever it is. So again, it's about filtering out the positive stuff, which our brain thinks we don't need. But our self-esteem and our confidence and our well-being does need that positivity. That's what feeds us. That's what feeds our soul. You know, if somebody says something nice to you on a night out, it lifts your mood. It makes you feel good. So if you can focus on the positives a lot more and switch it around, which is going to take some effort, but it is doable. We can all focus on the positives. It's something that I'm passionate about lately, is, you know, our mindset, having a growth mindset and focusing on the positives rather than the negatives. We can all do the negative stuff in our sleep. We can all do the negative stuff standing on our head. So for me to do, you know, a course on how to think negatively probably wouldn't sell very well. But I want to empower people to put the effort into thinking positively. That's why gratitude is really good. That's why having daily affirmations is really good. We need to train our brain to accept the positive. You know, it's probably never going to focus on it, but just to accept the positives, I think, would make us all live a far happier and healthier life, because our mindset and the way that we think about things drastically improves our state of mind, our physical health, our mental health and everything. Jumping to conclusions is another one. I'm an expert at jumping to conclusions. I often talk about this with my children in particular, especially the little one. I can tell just by the tone of his voice whether he's going to say something that I want to hear or not. Even his posture as he walks into the room and stands there, I can hazard a guess that, yeah, I can vaguely work out what's coming. And it's not fair on him for me to automatically assume what he's going to talk about. But a lot of the time it isn't true. But again, I only remember the times where I can kind of go, yeah, I knew exactly what he was going to talk about. So it's just focusing a little bit more on your thoughts and becoming aware of the thinking that you're having, because a lot of it is it's under the radar. You know, if somebody's saying to you, if you're in a conversation, there is probably a running commentary going on. You know, one of the listening skills that I learnt quite early on in my counselling and psychotherapy training, you know, active listening. And it's very rare that we actually listen actively in a conversation. We're usually coming up with a response to what's being said. You know, if somebody says, oh, I'm going on holiday next week, we're going to Spain, I'm really looking forward to it, your thoughts will instantly go to a holiday that you've been on, one that you're going to, whether you've been to Spain. You're already kind of putting yourself in the conversation and looking for a response to come back to. But learning to just be an active listener and just listen to what's going on in front of you and noticing the thought patterns that you have around that is a really helpful thing to do. So keep an eye out over this next week for the next lot of 5 videos that I'm going to do. They're only little, they're only 5 minutes, and you know, you might get a little gem of something from it. The next thing I want to just run by you or talk a little bit about is my VIP membership, which the doors have been open for quite a while now, but I'm going to be closing the doors to the VIP membership on Thursday, and I'll probably be reopening it again in June, mid to end June, probably after my treatment has finished, because it's quite late when I do that. I do the Zoom that's connected with the VIP membership at 8:30 on a Friday, and I'm going to do a bit of a run up to it. I'm going to do a relaunch and all that sort of stuff, but I am keeping the doors open for the next week, the next 7 days, and I'm aiming to get I'm going to leave open 10 places. That's all that's going to be open in the VIP membership, because I don't want a massive influx of people in there. We have a fantastic group of ladies. It's only open to ladies. I've got nothing against men, I apologise, but it's not open to the gentlemen. It's only open to ladies. We do loads of stuff in there. We do Zooms once a week. You have access to me and 2 30-minute coaching calls if you want to. Those are free, you just book those in. You get access to the courses. There's quite a few courses in there. We have a private WhatsApp group where we just shoot the breeze, or it's easier. And the reason why I'm aiming to get another 10 members in there is because when we get another 10, then I can invest in getting an app, which is going to be more like WhatsApp, so that the platform, the private platform, the group chats and everything are going to be available on the members' phones. So there'll be an app, and it'll be a lot more interactive, but it's a bit of an investment from me. So I decided, how can I do this? Obviously, with the treatment that I'm going through at the moment, I'm not taking on any more one-to-one clients, and I'm going to be working a lot more online with the VIP group and the platform that's off Facebook as well. That's where my focus is going to be, probably a lot more. My one-to-one clients have dropped down naturally, and I'm not looking to take on any more one-to-one clients at the moment. I'm going to be looking at doing more coaching packages, 6 weeks coaching packages and things like that, rather than taking on new clients. So my diagnosis has kind of just skewed my brain a little bit over what I can be doing in the longer term, whatever goes on with this. Even if, you know, things go hunky-dory and everything else, I'm probably going to be focusing more on the membership, and more of a package of one-to-one stuff rather than the individual one-to-one therapist, because one-to-one therapy, sorry. It takes up a lot of time seeing clients one-to-one, and they're kind of spread out over the week, whereas the other way, I can be more in control of it. If you're listening to this and you are a one-to-one client, don't think I'm going away anywhere, because I'm not. I'm just not taking on any new clients. The ones that I've got, my existing clients, are exactly as they are and will not change. So yeah, have a think about joining the platform. It's a free platform off Facebook, and it's open to women again. It's only open to ladies. I think we're heading up towards 60 in the platform now, which is brilliant. And the VIP will be open for another week, and I'm looking. Well, I've only opened up 10 spaces. There are only 10 spaces available. So if there's any more than 10, then jump on the bandwagon and want to join in. Unfortunately, you're going to have to wait until the middle or end of June when the doors open again, and I'll be doing a relaunch for that. And she takes a breath. I'm just going to check and see if I've got any questions anywhere. I don't even think I get to see them. It shows that I'm going live on there, but I don't actually see any questions if they are posted. So feel free to comment and post. You can ask me any questions. I think this is going out live on my Parent Plus page as well as on the Jackie Jones coaching page. But feel free. The other thing with the membership, the platform, the free platform, the Living Life Being Human platform, bring a friend along. If you know somebody that you think might help and you kind of like the way that I work and stuff like that, bring them in. It's a free group. You're not committed to anything. You can be as active or not in there as you want to be. You can chat with people. You can private message me. I'm in there pretty much all the time. You can post pictures. It's very similar to Facebook, actually. It's a really good platform that I'm eternally grateful to my son for setting up for me. But we want to get this app so that it's a lot more user friendly and you can access it on your phone wherever you are. So yeah, that's that. Okie dokie, I'm going to shoot now and leave you to it, and I will see you all next Thursday. I've got my next chemo session on Thursday. Last one went swimmingly, everything went fine, and I'm hoping that this next one will do, and hopefully I shall be back here around 7 o'clock. I keep moving my frame, can you see, when I'm talking? If I do anything, it moves the frame around this. I hope it's not making your eyes go funny. But yeah, I should be back between 7 and 1/2 past next Thursday for the next Living Life Being Human show. Hopefully see you all then. Take